Hello, ladies and gentlemen, I wish you well in your endeavors. And if you are coming across this video for the very first time, I would kindly like to ask you to subscribe to my YouTube channel, Eric Kizito, and at the same time click notification button such that when we produce a video of this kind, you will be notified. Well, we are in an electioneering period, and political dramas and activities are unfolding each and every hour. But for first, I would like to take this opportunity to talk about the Sagana Declaration, where President Uhuru Kenyatta spoke with these people in their local dialects. What does that Sagana Declaration intends to achieve now that President Uhuru Kenyatta has declared his support for ODM leader Raila Odinga? Let's have a take of the Sagana Declaration and what it tends. More so to the people of Mount Kenya, whom the president talked to. Well, it's all about Sagana, and in the aftermath of the Sagana Declaration, the Gema Nations will be, in my view, collectively answer two critical questions. These questions speak to what Gema does now and what their actions mean for their future. Question 1. What happens after Gema leaves the presidency? This question is about who will preserve the political and economic interest of the Gema Nation. And it is a critical question because the counties that make up Gema represent a 3 trillion shillings economy. This is equivalent to 30% of the country's GDP. In the run-up to the elections, Gema should be asking themselves what happened to the work they have done and who will be a worthy trustee of their 3 trillion shillings economy. Gema should be aware that having been in power for over 38 years, it will not be in power for at least for the next decade. And the last time the Gema did not have a seat in the presidency, there was a deliberate destruction of their economy. Well, the second critical question that the Gema Nation should collectively answer is this. What happens if they do not give enough votes to the winner of the 2022 elections? Now, in the 2017 general elections, out of 19.6 million registered voters in the country, 5.8 million or 28% came from the Gema communities. Depending on how they vote, the Gema masses can make or break the elections. So, what will happen if the Gema Nation give insufficient votes to the winner in 2022? How will the Gema Nations be rewarded or punished for their actions? Because whatever they do, the Gema Nation must speak aside and vote decisively, because the 2022 election will decide the future of the Gema Nation. And in the fight for the control of the presidency, the Gema Nation is to the 2022 elections what the Stanley brothers were to the War of Roses for the control of the English throne. Now, in the final battle that decided the fate of the England and the English monarchy, the battle of the Boss was filled. 3 armies that showed up to fight. The army of King Richard III, comprising of 10,000 men. The army of Henry Chudo, comprising of 5,000 men. And the army of an English Mungo man, Lord Thomas Stanley, comprising of 6,000 men. Lord Stanley was a member of King Richard court. They had made government together. So, as far as Richard was concerned, Stanley would fight for him. But Stanley was also married to Henry Chudo's mother. Stanley was not related to Henry by blood, but by marriage. You could say he was Mudhoniwa. When Stanley and his army arrived at Boston, he took up a position independent of both armies. The battle raged around him, but he did not make a choice for either side. When it came clear that Henry would win, Stanley and his army charged to Henry's defense and helped him win the battle. After the war, Stanley was greatly awarded with lands, titles, and privileges for dealing the final blow. So, just like Stanley, Uhuru has stood quietly doing development while the war for presidency has raged around him, and now at the appropriate time, he has pronounced himself. And those tens of thousands of Kikuyus who flocked to the mountain should line up to the last man behind Baba Raila Odinga to win this battle. And following the Sagana declaration, the people of the mountain have some very serious decision to make, and in making their decision, the Gema Nation must ask how they found themselves here. Why does this man, William Ruto, want to convince Kikuyu that they are improvised hustler and that he will save them? The point here is that the Sagana declaration gives Gema the chance to call William Ruto out. But first, they must understand his game, because it appears that William Ruto is alone, and so today I will diagnose him for the country. In my view, Mr. Ruto suffers from a disease called hero syndrome. A person with this illness are known to create desperate situations which only they can resolve, and thereafter they receive praise. So this term, the hero syndrome, gained popularity in the early 1980s when a Los Angeles police officer, Jimmy Wade Pusa, found a bomb underpass near the Los Angeles airport during Summer Olympics. So Pusa was an officer who found this explosive device. He ripped the wire from it and he ran with the device to put it in a safe location away from bystanders. But soon after, Pusa's story began to unravel. He was later arrested and charged with multiple crimes after confessing to creating the entire event. He was the one who had planted the fake bomb, all because he wanted to become a hero. He created the problem in order to provide a solution and receive praise. Now back to my diagnosis. This man from Sugoi is so desperate to the affections of the Gema Nation that he manufactured a problem that only he can solve. He has convinced youth of Mount Kenya that they are hustlers and he is a hero who has come to freedom. But Uhuru told us, you cannot be the reason for our community problems and then claim to be their savior, even after their problems are your fault. He said it very clearly. Those who destroyed your livelihood in tea and coffee are the ones who are telling you that you are hustlers. So dear Gema Nation, for as long as mankind existed, so are individuals that create false realities to follow their own personal hero status. Ruto's problems are so many that only Kikuyus can solve them, but at one cost. And this is the question that the Gema Nation must answer before August 2022. I will commence my submission with an insight that was shared by American playwright William Mota Inge. He said that if the church marries the secrets of its own generation, then it will be a widow in the next generation. What did he mean by this? He meant that the church should not be anchored in things that are worldly, those transient and temporary. The church is meant to secure us those things which are eternal. Ironically, history has taught us that sometimes churches end up being opposed to the very things they profess to stand for. It is because of this tragic reality that Ruto has been able to make churches abscond the gospel and get converted into campaign halls. And the man from Sugoi learned this from the professor of politics himself, Arap Moi. Moi would hold the Bible in his left hand while he wielded power politics with iron-fisted right hand. And Arap Moi learned this from the colonialist who came carrying the Bible in their left hand, then taught us how to pray with our hands together and with our eyes closed. By the time we opened our eyes, they had the land in their right hand, and we were left staring at the Bible, which wasn't even, if any, of our mother tongues. Uhuru Kenyatta wondered about these churches on Wednesday last week at Sagana, the ones that would rather celebrate a donation of 2 million shillings from stolen proceeds than condemn the stealing of 3 billion shillings, billions which were meant to build a dam so that the children of God can drink water and the people of Elgeyo Marakwet can farm their land. The ones who will rather celebrate someone out to disfranchise our generation when he plunders what is meant to restore the dignity of the nation. When Uhuru increased electricity connection from 28% to 78%, why wasn't he celebrated then? Then he built Thiba Dam that provides water for more than 10,000 residents. Why wasn't he celebrated? Or the Mau Mau Road, the longest road in Kenya, or the Chaka Market, Karimeni Dam, I could go on and on and on. The ports of Kisumu and many other developments. Jesus wonders of false prophet and those who claim to represent him. The ones who have made our churches markets and brothels for transactional relationship. Jesus even weighed and whipped those who bought and sold in the temples. He drove out the merchants, and that desecrated the temples. He then cleansed the temple of greed and profit. What's my point here? Religious conmanship need to be called out. This is because at the end of the day, mental associations are stronger than we realized. The physical podia in the church connotes a real mental and symbolic associations with the authority of God's words. Congregant things, anything coming from the pulpit has divine approval. So if the clergy needs to declare their political allegiance, let them do so as an individual and not in an official capacity. They shouldn't be telling their followers how to vote unless they want politicians to tell the current whom to pray for. The worship center is not called a sanctuary for nothing. It is here that we are protected from worldly affairs. This is a divine place that has required tens of thousands of years to reach its full development. Its sanctity should be preserved, but perhaps for this to happen, it's high time the church face harsh sanctions and regulations. Ida Odinga was almost crucified for saying this, but perhaps finally this is what will get rid of Pastor Muitus and restore sanity in the church. The Gema Nations should line up to the last man beyond Raila Amolo Odinga Baba to win this battle. Uhuru has declared support for Raila Amolo Odinga, for he saying Raila Amolo Odinga has the country interest at his heart. Thank you very much for watching. I'm Eric Okeo Kizito.